Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. We are finally hitting our Phantom Nightmare full set review. I've kind of been mulling it over, and I really wanted to make sure I felt good about my kind of rankings and decisions on some of these cards here. But today we're going through everything that I think is any sort of competitively relevant from the set of Phantom Nightmare. So like all the filler stuff, all the just stuff that will have no impact on competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! I decided to leave out of this video, but we've still got a ton of stuff to get through today. If you guys don't know, whenever I make these videos, I break up these sets into three widened categories. The first one is brand new archetypes. I believe I have 3 listed today we're going to talk about. We have legacy support, archetypes that already exist, and support for them to hopefully move them up the tiers of competitive play, as well as generic cards that will apply to a grouping of different decks going forward. So those are the categories. That's the order we're going to do them in, and we'll kind of rank them individually from those different categories and go from there. But let's start off with the first category, brand new archetypes. First off here is Goblin Riders. Really cool Exceed-based archetype where all their monsters, actually most of their deck, has an effect that can detach a material from any Exceed monster on the field to go ahead and either extend themselves or get an additional effect. And that's really cool because it's any monster, which means it has really good matchups versus other XYZ based decks, which is really cool. And it has some pretty powerful cards. It has an insane Rhoda card, has an insane rank 3 that's completely generic. So there's also the possibility of combining this archetype with like any XYZ based archetype already or engine. And they also have a handful of pretty solid extenders already for the deck. So I think it's a really good start. I don't feel like it's all the way there just yet. It still feels like they're missing like their own full payoff. It feels like they don't have their own payoff quite worth it just yet for their end board. But if they get it soon in their second wave or whatever, they could be in a good spot. So I like it. I give this archetype a B because it's not all the way there yet. It's not Sprite or tier on drop. It's good, but not all the way there. So I'm going to give it a B. I still think it's going to have the ability to play a little bit in the competitive scene right out the gate, but more of like a high tier rogue deck. Next up here, we move to the next new archetype. This is a new ritual-based theme based around the old vanilla Skull Guardian. They get like a bunch of cards built around them. They make use of like Saphira, that old ritual monster as well. And it's really cool. All in all, you know, it's still a ritual archetype, so I still have my concerns that just inherently it's going to be held back by its own summoning condition, like most ritual decks are. But they have a pretty good payoff. I mean, if there was going to be a modern day ritual archetype work, this one may have the new best chance going forward. So plus we have a ton of ritual support already in the game, so that's something to keep in mind for the archetype as well. It's cool. I think it has the potential to be like a cool rogue deck, but we'll see. And next and lastly, we have Yubel. I know some people are going to say, Yubel's already existed. That's not a new archetype. I'm talking functionally. Functionally, Yubel has not been a real archetype, at least for 10 years, probably. Maybe even ever. So, to me, this is a brand new archetype because it's not existed as a playable archetype for a long, long time. So, I would say Yubel fits that mold. This is a new kind of... It seems like it's built to go second. It has some really cool tools. They actually do things now. They can search super poly. It's a cool archetype, but there's always flaws to inherently going second anyway. So keep that in mind. It's a cool archetype. If you're a big anime fan and you want to do some cool rogue stuff with this, you could do some fun stuff with it. I just don't think you're going to see it too much on like high level competitive play, but who knows? You know, there's always creative players out there to make use of some of this stuff. That's pretty much it. Those are the 3 new archetypes. I would give these like overall like a 6 out of 10. I don't know. If you're going to tell me there's 3 archetypes, one of which could have like tier 2 potential in the Goblin Riders and the other 2 at most like rogue decks, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Not crazy, not terrible. There's definitely still potential here, especially if these archetypes get more cards going forward, especially Goblin Riders, but for me, just a 6 right now. All right, let's move to legacy support. Bunch of stuff here. We're going to fly through these. Not going to spend too much time on them. I kind of have them in order of how important I think they are to the competitive scene, or how impactful, I guess, I think they'll be. New Gate Guardian support. This is a really nice new win condition added to them. It doesn't make their engine better, but it gives them a slightly better payoff. So that's nice, but not amazing. So they'll take it, but I don't think it moves them too far. Next up is a new Momento card. Randomly, like super early, they get a new Momento card. This card actually does boost their engine quite a bit. It makes some of their one-card starters quite a bit better. So we'll take it for sure. He definitely looks like Karibo, even though I know he's not. Whatever. But he's cool. He helps them a little bit. I don't think they're there yet. I think they're still too graveyard reliant and have some other key problems elsewhere, but still a nice card for them. Magis Specters get a whole wave, I think, of 4 new cards. They're actually all pretty good, and hopefully they get Kieran unbanned when this comes out as well to really help them push forward. I still think this deck just has the key problem that like all Pendulum decks do, which is like going second, needing 2 to 3 cards to play normally means that going second, you just cannot play into boards. You have to like have 3 hand traps or insane board breakers and a 1 or 2 card combo in your hand to like play it all. So I just don't love them going second, but still pretty nice support all things considered. They could actually be a fun rogue deck. Goatee actually gets 3 different things. They get 2 new main deck monsters that are both nice extenders. New white aura cards in the form of like Porpoise being a pretty good synchro climb card. And they even get a new generic card called Fish Lamp. I'm not entirely sure the best way they'll be made use of here because I've never really messed around with Goatee, but I don't know. They got 3 different avenues of support here. They have to be better. I don't know how much better. Maybe they'll actually show up as a rogue deck now. But other than that, I have no idea. They're cool, but we'll just have to wait and see if they can poke forward with this new stuff. Aromas. Aromas get, I think, 5 new cards, like insanely, or 4, at least 4. I think to me, the new main deck monster that is kind of just like a tour guide for the deck, as well as the Link 3 here, Aromalith. The spell's also okay as well. Those are the winners, right? This card just is a free plus on summon. Obviously, tour guide is good. There's a world where there's an alternate version of the Rika Sanavalon deck that's more like Aroma Sanavalon, and it could be kind of the same thing. We'll see. And some of these cards could even just work their way into that deck. We'll have to wait and see on that. But pretty decent cards, all things considered. We'll just have to see how they integrate into the plant deck. Raid Raptors. Raid Raptors get like 7 new cards, something crazy. They get a brand new Towers guy. They get another Searching rank 5 now. They get 2 new main deck monsters, and I think a new spell and a trap as well. They got a bunch of stuff. The question here is, like, how much better are they? Because, like, even though these cards are nice for them, and they will probably see play for Raid Raptor decks, is it the exact kind of support Raid Raptor was looking for? I honestly have no idea. I think there's something here, because I've always heard people say, like, over the years that Raid Raptors have a lot of good cards, have a lot of good extenders. We'll just have to see if they're there enough that they can actually be a competent strategy and are well-rounded enough, consistent, and all that stuff to see if they're up there. But the future looks pretty bright for them, all things considered. Next up, 2 new Horus cards. Now, when I say 2 new Horus cards, I really don't believe the monster's going to see much play, but I do believe this field spell is really nice for them. This card gives the Horus engine a couple different things. This almost could have been thrown in generic stuff because the Horus engine is almost more generic than like an actual archetype. But whatever, it's my list. This card is really good. It adds consistency to the engine and being able to let you start with Imsity way more consistently. And it goes ahead and copies the name of King Sarcophagus while it's on the field. So the like choke point of this deck being that like if your opponent has a Cosmic and they can just Cosmic your King Sarcophagus, yes, you won't get to send anything else, but if you search it off of Incity in the first place, you can still have the field spell on field and be able to just reborn all your Horuses because this card counts as King Sark as well. So it allows you to bypass that choke point as well as make your engine more consistent. I think it's a really nice spot to be. And I think the most important, impactful support, legacy support from this set is Snake Eyes for sure. They get this new level 1 guy, and they also get a new spell that helps connect Snake Eye to the Diabellstar side of things, which is really cool. But this card is insane. It has 3 insane effects. It's an extender, it's a Stratos, and it also gives you follow-up by putting other monsters into your spell and trap zone. This card is like everything Snake Eye's been looking for. I think this is the card that actually makes the Snake Eye engine have enough payoff to make them fully worth playing in a competitive deck, and I think that's what we'll see post-Phantom Nightmare, for sure. All right, so that's it for the legacy support stuff. All in all, I think it's decent. I don't think it's amazing. I think when you look back like to a set ago, or actually 2 sets ago, when you look at like core sets at least, when we got like Infernoble Knights, Unchained, even like Altar Guys came back as like a Fringe Rogue deck. Rescue Ace. That's at least 3 decks right off the bat there that literally became like tier 1 meta threats, or at least Infernoble Knight floats around there. Just from legacy support, like 1 to 3 cards, and like boom, shot all the way up, skyrocketed all the way up to like the top tiers of competitive play. That would have been like a 9 for me, right? A 9, maybe even a 10. This archetype, I think the Snake Eye stuff is really good. The Horus edition is really nice. Maybe Raid Raptor and like Aroma can float around there, but I'm not fully confident that they're going to be quite tier 1 level support. So for me, I'm going to give it a 7. I think it's slightly better than like the new archetypes go as far as stuff goes, but still not overly impressive to me. Just a 7, and maybe even more of like a 6.5, but still good stuff mixed in here, so we'll still take it. Which takes us to the final category, the generic stuff. We've only got a handful of cards here. Let's start off with Moon Haze Dragon. This card is literally just a burn card, but if you're playing a synchro deck, this gives you a time win condition, so I do think it can come up. It's, again, doing the order of like the less impactful stuff before we get to like the really insane stuff at the end. But listen, it's a time card. It could come up. Don't be surprised if you lose in time to this card, or need to win in time with this card. Next up is Master of Hand. This card is kind of funky. He's mostly an instant fusion target, but don't sleep on this card, man. This card I could easily see coming up down the line. On fusion summon or flip or when he's flipped, you can special a flip monster straight from deck face down. So even just instant fusion is just a straight up +1, right? You get a body with this guy, and then you also get another monster off of it. Now, you can't like link them off or anything, but that there is value there, especially if you're playing a fusion based deck. So keep an eye on this card. This card is the kind of card to me where I think they would make this for the reason that like more stuff will make this card make more sense down the line, but we'll see. Next up, Terrors of the Nether Route. New trap card. It adds to the Terrors line of things. Engrave, like as a follow-up effect, it can search one of your Terrors traps, which is kind of nice, but it's also like a decent interruption as well. It's a decent card. I don't know if it like outclasses Overroot, but it's still decent. Rumple Twl, actually a floodgate type card. You get to declare a monster name, and then neither player can special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, except from grave with that monster's name. And it even has another like effect in grave to kind of do another thing like that. But it's pretty decent. I think like if you know a matchup, this could be one of those cards that's kind of like a D barrier, but cuts off, for more specific decks that don't quite lose to D barrier, maybe link based decks. That could be kind of cool. You can even call extra deck monsters names, which is nice. Back Mutation, cool new spell card. This kind of goes in that pile of spell cards that we've kind of been getting as of lately, like Fusion Reproduction and even Fusion Deployment, which actually has seen play. It tributes any fusion or synchro monster as cost to special summon a monster with the same level straight from the deck. So pretty flexible there. It seems to have really good synergy with stuff like what are they called? What is the spell deck? Oh, I can't remember the spell deck right now. Oh my gosh. Runic. Jeez, holy. Tribute a Runic Fusion that you've already gotten some value off of, like Huggin. Summon any level 2 in the game straight from the deck, like Sprite Blue, and just play from there. It's a pretty cool card, but it does hurt to get ashed on this, so it'll be something to keep in mind for sure. Enigmaster Packbit, a cool new generic synchro, 8. Now listen, I don't think this card will see play generically in any deck that makes Synchro 8s over a lot of the other stuff we already have, but I do think for specifically Centurion and maybe even Snake Eye, we could see this card come through. This card has a cool like effect on summon to like target a monster in your graveyard or on the field, and then put it in the spell and trap zone as a trap. So it has really good synergy with Centurion, as well as being like one of those synchros they can quick make on the opponent's turn, interrupt the opponent. It's a good card. I've kind of been sitting here waiting for Konami to actually come out with a level 8 for Centurion. And this card kind of fits that bill. The only thing it doesn't have is Centurion in the name. So still cool, still will come up, but still a little bit specific in the archetype it's going to work in. Next up, EMP Gmad. Really cool. This is supposed to be like the this is supposed to be like the grenade of IP Masquerena that it uses as a weapon. It is an extender for certain decks, and then from grave, it can actually bounce a monster on the field, which is quite good. Or actually target any card and bounce it. So it's a really good utility card. Just like, not only is it just a simple extender that's like fine, but then it also has that utility of being able to bounce a card, and it's a trigger. So you can actually find ways to trigger it on the opponent's turn as well, not just going second. So potential interruption, potential good removal, potential good extender. I think it fits like a lot of bills there. It's just a good generic card for sure. Last trap we're going to talk about here is Iron Thunderhammer. This card is a new counter trap from this set. I think this card could potentially power creep, finally, Solemn Strike and Judgment. I'm not going to say that indefinitely. I think it has the potential to, but it has like the best part of Solemn Strike being that it can just negate any monster effect activated on the field and destroy it as a counter trap, so it can't be responded to. So going second, right, even setting this into a board going second is quite nice. But it also negates spells and traps. Now, it can be a little bit punished if your opponent knows you're on it, because it destroys every card in that card's column. So if your opponent starts activating stuff in your card's columns, then they can start removing your stuff too, or at least making it really awkward to activate this card. But I do think if it's not seeing a ton of play, it's a card that can like really catch people off guard, and they're not going to know to play into it. And this card kind of has the best two effects of both those cards. You stop the board breakers, the really powerful spells and traps, as well as stopping the monster effects on the field to play second as well. So really, really good. I think everybody's going to need to pick up this card, although I have a hunch it's going to be a secret, but we'll see. And the last card we have here is Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames. Crazy name, crazy artwork. She looks awesome. This card is insane. This card is going to come up in so many different fire decks for sure. It has two main things going for it. Once per turn, it can just reborn any fire monster from grave. Non-targeting makes it even better. And its second effect is that if it's in grave and your opponent special summons a monster, you can target a fire monster you control and a monster your opponent controls, destroy them both, then summon this card back. So not only does it come back to like revive something next turn for more follow-up, but it's literally an interruption. It is a pop on the opponent's turn while also being a crazy extender. I think we're going to see this in Rescue Ace, potentially Infernoble. Infernoid, I think, is something low-key. Snake Eye is another thing to keep in mind. Fire Kings is another one. Like, there are so many decks. Like, even Volcanics, maybe. Like, right? The only restriction on this card is while it's on the field, you can only special summon fires. So if you're going to link this off, you need to link it off for a fire monster to clear it and get it engraved. But other than that, this card is so abusable. I think we'll see this card Salamandrates. This probably has the best synergy with Salamandrates, because they literally just do the same exact thing they do now, but then you just also end with an extra pop engrave. And you can still protect your guys with Balinks, which is really solid. So yeah, don't sleep on this card. This card we are going to see. It's probably the chase card of the set. I think you're going to have to pick up one if you're a fan of any kind of these fire decks, because it's going to be mandatory to play in a lot of those. Luckily, it'll be a one of any deck, so hopefully it's not too crazy. And it won't be played by any deck, just fire deck, so I think that also hopefully will keep the price relatively decent. But yeah, this card is wild. So as far as the generic cards go, we don't have anything that's like, you know, super bonkers applies to it. Like, every deck needs to pick this up now. Like SP Little Knight and like the new Typhon Exceed from the most recent core set. But I do think there are some big stuff here, and they're maybe a little bit more specific, but there are some good generic cards here, just like most sets have. I still think it's a little bit more average, though, so I'll give it a 7 as well on this, because I do think there's not nothing here. We've definitely seen some core sets that have, like, no super great generic cards in it whatsoever. So I definitely still respect this part of the set for sure. So I think all in all, giving the new archetypes a 6, giving the legacy support a 6.5, and the generic cards a 7, I think this set's more like a 6.5 for me. It's more of an average set overall, in my opinion. Still excited for it, because literally every core set, there's such big sets that, like, there's going to be something for me in there, and I think that probably applies to a lot of players. But still excited for it. We're still going to get the new TCG exclusive Pyro archetype in here as well. If that is a hit out the gate, that obviously elevates this set as well. So there is ways where Konami can still salvage this set and bump it up even. But we'll obviously have to wait and see on that. But that's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Let me know in the comment section down below what you're most excited for from Phantom Nightmare. I would say for me, it's the new Firelink 3. It's probably the Goblin Riders from the new cards. And then from like Legacy support, it's probably Snake Eye stuff. I'm really excited to mess with Snake Eye with those 2 new cards. But I want to know what you guys are excited for as well. I'm out of here for today, though. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Subscribe for more stuff from me down the line, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.